got my friend David here, and this evening, if I get some people in the hangout, what I'd like to do is play back a snippet of video. I've got about 10 or 15 minutes recorded video and I'd like to critique it and make commentary with it, and have other people do so. It's recording of a very brief discussion I had with a lady named Fiona Robertson, who is a Christian who argues for evolution theory, and she hangs out mostly in atheist hangouts. She refuses any challenge to a structured debate because she claims that the opening statement in a structured debate would be used by a creationist as a to do a gish gallop, which is kind of ridiculous because that's what opening statements are for. You know, giving a number of arguments, brief arguments, points, evidences, and she doesn't like that, so she says that's her reason for not wanting to enter into engage in a structured debate. But she was discussing some of what she calls mechanisms for evolution in this discussion I had with her that I recorded a piece of, and I want to go over some of those things because I think it's kind of funny. You can actually tell she's kind of squirming to come up with to get somebody to believe what's coming out of her mouth when she says these things, as though these things really are mechanisms. And I kind of put the screws to her. I asked her, how is this a mechanism for evolution when such and such, and she just and she kind of started doing a double talk dance at that point, and I think it's kind of telling. But I wanted to do that. Hopefully, if some people join, I'll pull that video up and play it back and do some critique of it. I think it's unfortunate that there are Christians who argue for evolution, and they'll tell Christians who are creationists that they're flat out wrong. That's just so wrong because doesn't the Bible tell us specifically about creation? Isn't it a prominent theme in the Bible? Didn't God tell us that He made it and He made it specially, and it didn't come about by any natural processes, and He didn't employ nature to help Him make it any kind of way? That's clearly what the Bible teaches. It surely is, and science has verified it too. I'm so glad to know that I can trust God's word. And that's one of the remarkable things, David, that I learned several years back is, in studying these matters, is that one of the reasons that I was so motivated to find out which was true, creation or evolution, because I had discovered the tremendous controversy about it, was because it really made implications about God's word, the Bible. If evolution was true, I couldn't trust the Bible anymore. And I would doubt my faith in God because the Bible clearly states God made it. Right? Well, I was very pleased to discover in my studies on the subject that I can certainly trust God's word about it because science actually supports what God's word says about it. And that was just a thrill for me to discover that. I was absolutely thrilled by that.
Mm-hmm.
Still today, thrilled by it. And so it offends me that there are Christians who argue for evolution and tell Christians who are creationists that they're wrong. Evolution is the explanation for life. Whether God tweaked it or pushed it along or whatnot, God still used some kind of materialistic cause, chemistry and natural processes to make us. That's just false, scientifically false, and the Word of God refutes it as well. And I love showing that too.
Yeah, I don't understand how they can reconcile that, how they dismiss what's said in Genesis, yet can still stand on a biblical foundation for the rest of their faith.
Right, and in fact, Jesus Christ made it clear. He said, "He who made them in the beginning made them male and female, and that a man would and his wife would cleave together and be one flesh." And so, I mean, how do you argue with that? I mean, your very faith is in Christ. If Christ said it was made by God, and when? And He said in the beginning. Then it's bizarre to me that people can not seem to see that they're actually telling Jesus Christ He's wrong. You know, it's weird.
Yeah, it really is.
I actually have had one, more than one Christian tell me, well, when it says, when Jesus said he made them in the beginning, it doesn't mean he actually formed them by his word, you know. It means that, you know, he just implying that he caused it to be some way or other. But gee, does the passage say anything like that? No, you know, it says made, you know, formed, created,
Hmm.
made. What does that mean to you? I mean, it doesn't seem to take a lot of intellect to figure out what made means. He didn't say he coaxed it along. He said he made it.
Right. Right.
But anyway,
And with the amount of evidence against evolution, so I've watched some of your videos, right? And the main points that you keep bringing up is no transitional fossils from kind to kind, right? No
right.
explanation of how new produced. It doesn't seem like a Christian would be afraid of that to bring that up with that type of evidence in our corner to then say, fall back on, well, maybe God used evolution.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's just scratching the surface of the evidence. You know, the number of scientists, prominent ones, even eminent scientists who acknowledge the fossils don't show any kind of clear transition from one kind to another is lengthy. I mean, there's just lots of them. And in fact, virtually all of the world's most prominent scientists of the last 100 years have acknowledged this, you know, in their own books and stuff. So, you know, I mean, it's just one evidence, and there's the microbiological evidence of intelligent design, the fantastical nanotechnology in the cell. There's the sheer complexity of it. There's the existence of genetic information that defines living things. And how do you get information from matter? Well, you just can't. It requires mind. And so
Right.
the list just goes on and on and on. Yeah, but you know, the phylogenetics of you know, their supposed evidence that all the things of the world are genetically related to each other because of the similarities we find between them genetically. Uh, they have the world duped with that claim. I'll read you a quotation. Um, Let me see where I can find that. Uh, a very telling statement. Let's see here. Genetics. I've got so much on my computer. Um, Phylogenetics. Yeah. Now listen to this statement here. I've got a number of them, but let's see here. Um, okay, here. This is from Carl Weiss, 1998. He's a world renowned microbiologist and professor at the University of Illinois. He was best known for identifying the third domain of life, the archaea, in 1977. Was first introduced phylogenetic taxonomy of 16 S ribosomal RNAs. He's also the first person. He was also the first to propose in his 1967 book titled "The Genetic Code" that RNA was the original genetic material owing to its information storage and catalytic properties. So he's a mover and shaker, right, in the scientific community. He's famous. And he says this, and I quote him: no consistent organismal phylogeny has emerged from the many individual protein phylogenies so far produced. And he's also said, phylogenetic incongruencies can be seen everywhere in the universal tree, from its root to the major branchings within and among the various taxa to make up the primary groupings themselves. So what he's saying is this whole claim that phylogenetics is powerful evidence that everything living is related to each other genetically is not so. The fact is, this is what we're told. We're told that the genetics proves this phylogeny that that all living things belong on this tree of life, and that they're all related and they branch off. But the truth is that scientists know better. That the evidence is merely it's speculations. It's speculations and assumptions. It's not actually something that the evidence is hard about. So that's a very telling statement.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah. And there's there's other quotations by other scientists that can be uh, read about that. So, but the public has been duped to believing that, oh yeah, we got it all tied out, and the scientist is slapping his hands together and knocking the chalk off. Oh, it's all so well established. Is that true? No, it's not true. That's what they tell the public. What they say when they talk to each other is the truth. Well, we've got the evidence, but it's sketchy. But hey, it's strong enough. You know, that's how they admit the truth to each other. But they say something else when they talk to the public. That's one of the things that kills me about evolutionist scientists. What they actually say to each other is very different from what they say to the public. You know, they acknowledge the problems with evolution theory when they talk to each other. But when they talk to the public, they talk as though it's all wrapped up, it's so neat and packaged, and we've got all the evidence we could ever hope for. And that's just
Hmm.
bizarre that they do that. I think there's that displays that something is going on here. People are pushing a paradigm. They're preaching a sermon. They're not actually telling you science when they do that.
Yeah, that's the frightening thing is how accepted it is, right? And how it allows everyone to continue to do their behavior and feel comfortable with it, not have to question it, just trust the scientists on faith in the scientific community. Never, are you there? Did I lose you?
No, I was talking to my wife for a minute.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
no, yeah, it's unfortunate, and what they say in these TV programs, the Nova and National Geographic stuff they put on TV, that really just gets under my skin because they talk as though it's all so well established. They don't even provide any evidence in those things to speak of. Really, they provide assumptions, and when they do provide something that they claim as evidence, what it is usually is an animal's bone that they look at and say, see the evolution happening." And
Right.
I look at the bones and I'm thinking, no, can you tell me more about it? Because I don't see it. you know, what's going on in your imagination? You're looking at this bone of an extinct ape and you're thinking humanoid, right?
Yeah, I
Okay.
was checking with the Creation Ministries. Dr. Sarfati has a book online, and it's talking about one of the shows. I don't remember the name of the show. I'm going through it right now, though. But
Mm-hmm.
he's critiquing the claims. It was a show on evolution as he goes through it, and it was really interesting to see the diagrams of what bones they had, how it was depicted, and then other versions of it. Now, dramatically different it is because you have, maybe a thigh bone and a jawbone, and that's all you got to work with.
Yeah. Oh, but evolutionists, they can take a fragment of a jawbone and from that they can extrapolate an entire creature.
Right,
Yeah. I mean,
right, and
uh,
build a life-size model with a smile and a gleaming eyes.
yeah, here's the thing. Yeah. I mean, I don't doubt that scientists can look at a piece of a jawbone and tell that it's from an ape or an ape-like creature. I don't doubt that. But what I have problem with is that they'll look at this one, they'll get a fragment of a jawbone, and because it's a little heavier on the bottom side than the typical monkey's jawbone, they'll say, "Ah, look, it's becoming human." Really? On that alone?
Right.
Are you kidding me? Please. Do there's actually tremendous variety amongst apes? Tremendous variety. I mean, there are differences between chimpanzees. You can have one family, I mean, one population of chimpanzees in one part of the earth and another population in a couple of hundred miles away, and they'll be anatomically the same, but they'll have slight differences, just like human populations do. I mean, look at the differences in the appearance of your typical Russian person and your typical Native American person. They
Hmm.
look very different, but gosh, they're still 100% human, right? And so we see this kind of variation in chimpanzees, just like we do humans. There's variation within them. And so what they do is they dig up a piece of a bone and they see variation in it, and then they declare that it's moving towards becoming more human based on, a bone fragment. Or even if they collect 60% of an entire fossil of an animal, they're looking at an extinct ape, and they'll claim it's moving towards human. And guess what? It doesn't have a centered foramen magnum, or it's not even moving to the center. It
Right.
doesn't have a chin, no portion of a chin like a human. It doesn't have a forward curving iliac blade of its pelvis, not by any means. It doesn't have a locking knee joint in any increment. Gee, so what is it? Well, it's obviously just an ape. But no, let's put it upright, like you said, make a model out of it, give it completely human hands and feet, and then faces that look whimsical. Like I'm thinking, I bet those are really good papayas over there. What do you think, sweetheart? Let's go over that way and get us some. Oh, yes, I think we should. What do you say? Very cheerio. Ta ta. I mean, seriously.
Right. Oh, it's funny.
Oh, the faces they put on these things. Should I have Swansons tonight for dinner? You know, please with that.
A little bit of interpretation in there.
Hey, don't I owe that guy a chicken?
No, there you go.
You know,
Hey, have you read anything about? Do you remember it was a few months ago, maybe 6 months ago, could even be a year now, but they found a cave with a variety of different bones in it, and they were claiming that this is a primitive man burying area. That the only thing this could be used for is to bury their dead. Do you remember that?
mm, I don't think so.
Man,
I,
hit
I
like
may,
National Geographic. It's been a while. I haven't read anything about it. I was wondering if you'd heard about it or read anything else
I
since then.
may have been forgotten that I had. Was it a hole in the ground where they
Yeah.
found about some animals, apes that they said had been buried in sediments? It was filled in by maybe a local flood. Was their explanation?
Yeah, and it was an entrance, and
Hmm.
then just kind of went straight down. That had a long cavern, and they claimed that the only
Yeah.
only reason that they would find bones that far back is if they were burying their dead in some sort of ancient ritual.
Yeah, I saw it. Now, I'll tell you what happened with that guy. Here's what probably happened. You got a group of apes, and they're hanging out around that hole, and here comes a wall of water about 70 feet high, moving 120 miles an hour, and the earth is grumbling, and then they look over the hill and they think, oh, crap. And 60 seconds later, they're in the hole with mud. That's probably what happened to those guys. Or actually, what probably happened was uh, uh, a local flood took place after the flood of Noah, and there would have been thousands and thousands of those happen because as the waters for the flood receded from the continents, it would have left every small lying dip in the earth or big one, whichever it might be, would have been left full of water, right? So there would have been millions of lakes or ponds on the continents right after the flood,
Right.
right? And these would either evaporate or merge and start forming rivers, or they would, break their natural dam because they were still soft sediments, and then they would create a small or maybe a very large local flood would happen because of that. Anywhere from like hours to a number of years after the flood of Noah. And so what probably happened is those guys were hanging around near that hole somewhere, and a local flood took place because some water was left somewhere standing on the earth after the flood, and they got washed into the hole and buried alive. That's probably what happened to those guys. Unless the apes were stupid enough to jump down into a 40-foot hole with no way of thinking they're going to get out. And honestly, I don't think so. Chimpanzees, they're pretty intelligent. I don't see a chimpanzee looking down into a hole and thinking, doesn't look like any way out of there. Why don't I jump down in there? I
Right.
don't think so. Chimps may not be the brightest thing in the world, but they're not absolutely stupid. And even a dog would probably not jump into a hole that it looks like he couldn't climb out of, right?
Right.
So I don't think a chimp would do it either. So something pushed them into that hole. They didn't jump into it, you know.
Yeah, that
Uh,
makes sense.
but on the other hand, if they were burying their dead, they would have been tossing bones down in there. But now, why would we think that they were doing that? Apes don't do that.
Right.
See, that's a human behavior to bury your dead. Now, elephants are the only species that I know of, I could be wrong about this, But I have heard that elephants are the only species other than man that seems to worship the dead,
Yeah, I've
and
heard that too.
that they'll go to boneyards where elephants seem to go to die, and they'll go pick through the bones and grieve over the dead. Uh, that's the behavior they seem to have anyway. Now I don't know. I don't think apes have this behavior though that I'm aware of. I've never heard anyone say
Yeah, I haven't
that,
either.
that any kind of ape, pays homage to their deceased in any way.
Well, I think that's strong evidence that we must have evolved from elephants.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, they made the same claim of uh, Neanderthal, and of course, science has now shown every reason to believe Neanderthal was fully human. They were a disease-ridden, sort of malformed family group of man that became popular and spread out, and they were just downright ugly because they probably had congenital, disease, in their DNA, and so they all pretty
Hmm.
much kind of looked alike. I mean, we can see family members. Everybody knows that you can look at certain families and see that this particular family has an unusually broad rib cage, or they all got really prominent noses, or
Right.
something. We see that in humans today, right? Well, I think it was even more exaggerated with Neanderthal. These people had serious genetic abnormalities, I think, anomalies, but abnormalities in the early history of them as a people. And because they interbred with each other so closely, uh, then that it was spread, and they all turned out looking this way. They all were very short with a broad rib cage and stocky and muscular type people with and they were also likely had rickets and scurvy, according to some scientists examining the bone matrix of Neanderthal. It looks as though they were all vitamin D deficient and had scurvy and vitamin C
Really?
deficient. Yeah, and they resorted to cannibalism. It looks like maybe. So they probably didn't have a good diet. They ate too much meat and they didn't eat enough vegetables and fruit, and that helped make them an unfit group of people. And they probably just went extinct. But they were fully human. There's argument that they're fully human. There's actually nothing about their bones that shows that they're any kind of related to ape in any way, except one thing. They have a very unusually shaped rib cage that just kind of flares out at the bottom like an ape's does. But that could be strictly an abnormality in their anatomy that was caused by inbreeding, and so they all turned out that way. Just like you'll see certain weird things about certain families, they're all kind of odd looking. Or I've seen a family group of people that seem to have no neck. I mean, their necks were so short, just like their chin was on their chest almost. The
Right.
dad looked that way, mom was that way, the son was that way, and I'm like, what? Did I step into a warp or something? You know, but so that's what I think explains Neanderthal. But even so, they don't have any transitional form. Their foramen magnum, and the hole in the bottom of the skull where the spine goes through. It's not moving towards the center. It's dead center. They have a forward curling iliac blade, just like a normal human being. They don't have a transitional looking pelvis. They don't have curved finger bones in any way. They're straight, just like a human. See, they have fully human features. All of them are fully human. Everything, except for this weirdness about the rib cage,
Hmm.
that it kind of gets broader at the bottom. To me, I see that as a genetic defect. If you can put all the pieces together, they look like a human, a large family of humans that had the same congenital deformity that was passed on and became fixed in their genome, and so everybody looked that way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Excuse me. And I can be long-winded. They worshipped the dead apparently because they buried their Neanderthal graves had been found with flowers in them. So apparently they were religious, and they had They revered the dead in some way. They buried them. And see, that's not an ape uh, characteristic. Apes don't do that.
Right.
Humans do. And
Yeah.
and I don't know about you, but I've never seen an ape make a flute out of bone. You know.
No, not yet.
Hmm. Yeah, drill holes in it, so they can play music with it. I didn't know apes were making music.
No.
But the transitional forms to it, see, I guess the evolutionist would believe that man was inventing music before he became fully human.
Right. Right. Yeah. Fits right in there.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Just
Yeah, I
depends
can.
on your presuppositions.
Yeah. See, I just have a hard time imagining that a pre-human would be smart enough or creative enough to be making music.
Yeah. Exactly.
I don't see it.
Yeah. No, that's an incredibly high level of thought and being.
Yeah. Even rudimentary music, any kind of instrument, that's way above apes. But then you hear the crazy evolutionist arguments. Well, they can teach a chimpanzee to play piano. Well, can they really? They can teach him to repeat a series of pushing on keys a little bit. Does that mean he's going to go sit down somewhere and write a song?
Right.
No.
Exactly.
No. So that's a pretty vacuous argument that we hear from evolutionists. Well, they can look. Chimpanzees can learn sign language. Well, great. Now show me the chimpanzee that came up with sign language.
Right. A whole different story.
Yeah, right. Didn't have to be taught how to use sign language. And what's his vocabulary with this stuff anyway? About 11 words,
Right. Yeah, they don't want to mention that.
Yeah, and those are taught to him. I haven't seen two chimpanzees stand there talking and say, "Well, what do you think, Bob? Chicken or
Yeah, chicken or bananas.
chicken or bananas?" Yeah,
I'm tired of bananas. Let's have the chicken.
yeah. I can't see it. I don't know. Atheists, their views they seem to be so stuck in believing something, and I think that it really it comes down to what somebody wants to believe, that their worldview is based on a need for evolution. They need evolution to be true. If you're going to say God didn't make anything, well, you have to say it evolved. There's no alternative. It either evolved or it was created. There's no third option, right? So if your heart says God didn't make anything, you're stuck with evolution. That's it.
Right. Right. And then you don't have any accountability for your actions.
That's
Everything's
right.
permissible, right? You don't have to worry about God's judgment.
Well, that's
Just,
true.
just an ape doing ape things.
That's it. Yeah, and if atheism were true, we're just bags of matter. And what's immoral about ceasing the interactivity of molecules to kill a person, so to speak?
Exactly.
Well, there's nothing immoral about that. You're just stopping the interaction of molecules. That's not immoral. What's immoral about that? Is that any less moral according to atheism, to kill a human being than to pluck a papaya from a branch? Because the fruit's going to die when you do that.
Right.
So what's the difference? Oh, well, then the atheist goes into well, we're so much more complex than a papaya. Oh, so now you're saying complexity makes morality. So the more complex the thing is, the more moral it is, right? I guess that means a door is really not a very moral thing, but hey, a house, it's a little bit more moral.
Yeah. Right.
And that skyscraper, oh, shoot. Yeah, there's some morality going on there. That computer must be awfully moral. I mean, we should revere computers. How dare you unplug the thing?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting worldview.
It's really quite nonsense. And they have to borrow from the Christian worldview all the time, constantly, to make any kind of argument about morality or anything. They constantly, no atheist lives by their atheist worldview. They just can't do it. Because if they were to actually live by it, they would have to admit to themselves and others that there really isn't anything wrong with just walking up to somebody and killing them with a ball-peen hammer.
Right.
There's nothing immoral about that. But they can't say that. They say, no, that would be wrong. Well, ask them why. Why would it be wrong? They're just a bag of matter. Well, then they go into the long spiel and the diatribe that's, about value. Well, we find value in things, and we see value in ourselves, and so we wouldn't want to kill anybody. And one excuse after another.
Right. It's all opinion.
Oh, it's opinion. That's right. No subjective truth. It can't possibly exist. Yeah. Hang on just one second.
Sure.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay.
So I wonder if I was to try to play that video back. Um, it doesn't seem to work for me too well when I do this video playback. I don't know how people do that. They can play a video in YouTube in a Hangout, and it'll and people can hear it and see it. I don't know how that works because I can show things, a picture on the screen, but I can't seem to play back
Right. Yeah. You
the
guys were doing
video.
that with me the other week, last week.
Yeah, maybe a showcase. I don't see a. It seems like there used to be a YouTube video feature. Oh, I just clicked showcase and it says this feature is disabled. Oh,
Oh.
Google disabled their own stuff. Uh, well, I don't know. Let me look through here.
Okay.
I'm looking at the list. Oh, here's the YouTube. Uh, there's a YouTube plugin for Google Hangouts here. I didn't have it installed for some reason in Firefox. Page isn't loading. I don't know what happened. Okay, let's see now. Okay, so I got that installed. Now, let me see if I can get that video. Let's see, click to add videos to your playlist. Okay. It's going to search YouTube. It's not going to search. I can't browse to my hard disk and pull up the video. I'd have to upload it to YouTube for this to work, looks like. Okay. Now, how do I get that YouTube thing to go away? Do you see anything on your screen?
Nope.
Okay, it's just on my screen, stuck. Can't seem to get it away. Okay. Well, how do I do that? The only way I could do that is to upload the video to my YouTube channel. And then I could show it, I think. So maybe I'll do that real quick. Won't take but a minute. It's not very big. Okay, it's uploaded now.
This was a conversation you had with her how long ago? Is this recent?
Yeah, it's like last week.
Okay.
About 4 days ago, I think. And 5 days ago. And she says that this and that and this are mechanisms for evolution. And they're no such thing, really. They would operate on top of any mechanism for evolution. They wouldn't themselves be a mechanism for evolutionary change. They would spread evolutionary change, but they wouldn't actually be a mechanism for evolutionary change.
Mm.
I understand how evolutionists say things like changes to allele frequency and whatnot works to promote evolution. I understand that, but you have to have the evolutionary change for these ideas to promote them. For that to help out.
Mm-hmm.
They're not the actual mechanisms. The only mechanism for evolutionary change that can actually exist is genetic mutation. Something has to provide a change to the organism in its design that can be spread to the population. Then it has to be more mutation. I mean, it, because organisms are defined by genetic information, their features and their functions, it has to be this genetic change that actually causes evolutionary change. And then it becomes prominent in the population by things like changes to allele frequency, genetic drift, and whatnot. But mutation is the only potential true mechanism for evolutionary change. Because, I mean, think about it. If random mutations or did not change the structural design of an organism, no matter how much natural selection, or changes to allele frequency or genetic drift was operating, it wouldn't be spreading anything that moves the organism towards becoming something other than what kind of creature it is.
Right.
You've got to have the fundamental change take place that can be spread for evolution to take place.
Mm-hmm.
And genetic mutation is the only potential mechanism for evolutionary change. The other things just promote the evolutionary change that's already taken place. They don't make it. And one of the things that she cited was natural genetic variation. Okay, now that's a really bogus claim. That's like saying that as creatures multiply, they naturally produce genetic variation. Well, that's observed, right? But that this genetic variation sometimes how somehow moves an organism towards becoming a fundamentally different type of organism. Is that true? The answer to that is no.
Right.
There's
Right.
no scientific evidence that the natural variation within a kind of living thing moves it in structurally in its design one iota towards being something other than what kind of creature it is. No evidence in science for that at all.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a scientifically false claim. But she makes that claim. All right, let's see here. Processing, it's 95% processed. I'm going to try to play that back if I can when this gets uploaded. Be nice if she'd pop in, discuss this with us, defend her claims.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like that's going to happen, huh?
Yeah, probably not. She likes to hang out in atheist hangouts and expects people to come in and debate her. She doesn't like to go too much. Although I think she actually has, on a rare occasion, go to a Christian's creationist hangout. But she doesn't do it very much, I don't think.
It sounds like you're pretty familiar with her.
Yeah, kind of. I've had a number of brief discussions with her, and I've been challenging her to a structured debate like I have so many. And for so long, and she won't take the bait, won't do it. She claims that the opening statements, structured debates usually go like this. There's an 8-minute or sometimes 10, sometimes 15 or 20-minute opening statement. And then the other person gives their opening statement. And then they start having 5 or 8 minutes back and forth. And there's a question and answer session. And there's, this and that. That's how structured debates work, right? They always have this opening statement. It can be 5 minutes, it could be 15. But she says that the creationists would use, as they always do, an opening statement to do a Gish Gallop, which is a Gish Gallop. What's called a Gish Gallop for anybody listening and doesn't know. A Gish Gallop is named after the creationist paleontologist Duane Gish. And what it is that Duane Gish had a habit of when he was debating somebody, he would say, that's not true because, genetic variation has never been shown to do this. And we know that random genetic mutation doesn't do this. Furthermore, and so he'll rattle off 3, 4, 5 evidences real quick that refute the claim that was just made, right? And so atheists have, in evolutionists, call this a Gish Gallop. Like he's galloping across you with his supposed evidences.
Okay.
And so she says that the creationist she debated, if she were to debate a creationist in a structured debate, that they would use the opening statement to do Gish Gallop. It would just be one long Gish Gallop. But the problem with that is that's ridiculous because that's exactly what opening statements are for.
Right.
Is for each side to give a number of arguments for their case. And so, but she's labeling this a Gish Gallop and says she fears that And that's why she won't engage in structured debate. Basically, what she really is saying is, I fear structured debates because um, I won't be able to. I'm afraid that the creationist might name some evidences that I won't have time to address or try to refute because I won't have time in my debate, and so I fear debating them. Well, I'm sorry. That's just how structured debates work. Nobody's expected to be able to have the time to make a refutation of every single point that somebody makes. The
Right.
point is, make a strong case using what evidences you can, and the audience decides who had the better case. That's all it
Hmm.
is.
Yeah, that seems like an unreasonable expectation.
Yeah. It's just, I think she just fears a structured debate. All right, let me see now. Um, let me see if I can find uh, video. If I can find that video now. Let's see here. Okay, that didn't work. Oh, add. Here we go. Play the search for it. Okay, now. Excuse me. Is it going to? It may not because it may not. It may not be queried by the discovered by YouTube's search engine yet. I just uploaded it, so it may not show up if I search for it by name. It might be later tonight or tomorrow that it actually shows up.
Hmm.
I'm gonna copy the name of the video and then paste it in just to make sure that I didn't misspell it properly. Misspell it. Yeah. Oh, there I did just misspell it. So let's search for it. See if it pops up. No, probably won't show up till later on. Google's search engine has to index that file. Hasn't done it yet. It might be tomorrow or tonight later before it does. So I can't find it with a search in YouTube. Now I wonder if I pasted the URL for it. Would that work? Let me try that. Okay, there we go. Okay, so, all right. Now, do you see a video on the screen, Dave?
No, not yet.
No? Okay, I'm playing it back, but you're not seeing it, right?
No, no, and I wonder if it's showing up on a computer because again, I'm on my phone, so it might be a little bit different.
Ah, okay, I bet it would be. Yeah. And you can't even hear it, huh? Hmm.
All right, I got a little audio there.
What's
That might
that?
have been coming through. I got a little audio there for a second.
All right, let me play back a little more audio, see if you can hear this. Okay, were you hearing anything there?
No.
No? Oh, shoot. Okay. Okay, it's because you're on an iPhone, I think.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, PC is the better way to do it. Things like this, apparently. Okay, well, at least I got YouTube working in Google. Been
Yeah,
buggy.
maybe you should. If you can't see it, since I'm the only one here, maybe we should post that for a little bit and have a hangout tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll do it if I don't get anybody else pop in and turn this into a real hangout. Then
Yeah.
I'll upload up another time.
Not that I don't enjoy the one-on-one time with you. It's been very beneficial.
Oh, yeah, I enjoy talking to you.
So thank you.
I find that as of late, the evolutionist camp doesn't really like coming to creationist hangouts much anymore. I I think that they have they like to hang out with each other in a hangout where they have power over the mute button and they can talk over you constantly to prevent your arguments from being heard. But
Right.
if they can't
Yeah,
get away with that in your hangout, they don't like to come. That's what it looks
that
to me like.
one video you posted, I think it was 8 parts about a chat that you were kind of lured into. That sounded like quite a conversation.
I don't remember which one you're talking about, but was it a lot of atheists talking over people and muting people and stuff?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
really?
It's like they kind of invited you in and said we're just going to hang out, no real topic, and then you got bombarded with a number of them that were pretty vulgar and belligerent.
Oh, yeah. It gets difficult to have your say. You have to fight for it. They just can't, have a cordial discussion. Seems.
Yeah,
Because then you might be heard and make some strong arguments they'd have to refute.
right.
And the people watching their videos would say, "What? That Christian just went in there and handed their hat to him," and they don't want that happening.
Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, I think they're afraid of the evidences. I just find it amazing. There's so much scientific evidence for creation today. You know what I think would be funny, Dave, is to I thought I would do this. In fact, I'm going to hold a hangout sometime, and I'm going to have a little. Let's title it something like, "Let's test intelligent design," and show some pictures. A rock pile out in the middle of a field. You know, a personal computer sitting on a desk.
uh-huh.
A car. Um, y- um, uh, a pile of dirt laid somewhere, on a in a field by maybe a piece of heavy equipment like front end loader or something. A drawing in the sand with a stick. And then show us these things, and then and include in that maybe like ATP synthase machinery in the cell and polymerase, and have the evolutionist tell us which one of these doesn't look designed to you. And so, oh, it's got to be that polymerase thing, you know.
Right. There you go. There you go. The old one of these things is not like the other.
Yeah, yeah. Which one doesn't belong? Which one doesn't belong? Yeah, and then get them to tell you why. And I think it would be absolutely hilarious to hear them, do their spiel, because okay, so you can recognize design in a pile of rocks or with no organization to them in any order, just a big pile of 10-pound or 30-pound rocks sitting in an open field, right? But this complex microscopic nanotechnology machine with moving parts that does something functional inside a cell, that doesn't look like design to you.
Right. Chance and time.
Oh man, boy, that's really reasonable. Boy, I really get your drift.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, some Neolithic structure, like a big stone sticking up with a rock laid across two others, that some guy put together in 2400 BC or something in an open field. Oh yeah, some humans made that, man. They put those rocks together like that. Probably took them. You know. Okay, so you see design in three rocks, but
Right.
in a machine.
Flagellum? No,
Yeah,
nothing.
yeah, flagellum, it's got, 60 different components, or something. Not 60. I guess it's like a dozen or 12, two dozen different mechanical components, made of like
Hmm.
probably 14 or 18 different kinds of protein, and it's all working and it's spinning and it's actually operating like an electric motor, and it's got stators and bearings and a bushing and whatnot.
Right.
And no, that doesn't look
Just,
designed.
just, just chance.
Yeah,
Just chance.
it happened. How telling would that be?
That'd
I
be
would,
that'd be fun.
that would be fun. I would love to debate in a university auditorium in front of 2,000 college students, a university professor on the subject of evolution, and have a huge poster board, or with with those things on it, and say what looks designed to you. Not, have a couple of rocks in a field, have these things, and then have these microscopic machines in the cell, and ask him, "Could you tell me, sir, which one of these things you think is not designed, please, and why?" And then, you know, oh,
Right.
I think that would actually make a lot of the students in the auditorium actually chuckle. But,
Yeah, that's pretty creative. That'd be fun to see.
you could just use the computer projector, I guess, put it up on the big 60-inch LED TV or something.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect. Well, you got your New Year's resolutions. There you go for 2016.
yeah. It just demonstrates the mindlessness. I mean, the denialism, rather, of evolutionism.
Mhm.
You have to think. It's got to be very offensive to God that His creation has all these people that He created that turn around and say He didn't create anything, doesn't even exist, and nature explains their own existence. You know, that's got to be offensive to the Creator.
I'm sure it's the most offensive. As I mentioned before, right? I've got a son, and if he completely rejected me and said, you don't exist,
Oh,
that would
that's a
be
good point.
hugely offensive. I mean, it would crush me. So
Wow,
I can imagine how he feels.
yeah, that's a good point. I never actually thought about that. That's a great point. How would you feel if your son said, "You're not my dad. You didn't make me"?
Yeah, be the worst thing I could hear.
Wow, that's a great point. I'm going to use that if you don't mind. That's
No, please
that,
do.
that's great. I never actually thought about it in that way before, but that's a great point. That really would break the heart of a parent if the child actually uh, seemed to believe 100% what they were saying. Wow. Yeah, so it definitely offends God that people do.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, that would just crush my spirit. And I'm sure any parent that has kids would feel the same way.
Mm. Now, in the case of the evolutionist, an atheist, it's not just offensive, but I mean, it's arrogant. Think how arrogant that is. Wow.
Hmm.
So now, um, I used to believe in evolution. I believed it hook, line, and sinker. You did too at some point in the past, or did you?
Yeah, I was an atheist, strong atheist.
Wow,
I would call myself one of the pioneers of the new atheists.
wow,
Um,
really?
for most of my life, raised in an atheist home. Went to college, was an atheist, had a Christian roommate who introduced me to Christianity and took me to the college campus local Christian group there, and I challenged them on their beliefs and asked for evidence, and I couldn't get an answer other than you just got to have faith and believe. So I think that
Mm.
is one of the things that spurred me towards apologetics, and so I was a Christian up until, or I'm sorry, an atheist up until probably my mid 20s. Believed in evolution, believed in materialism, and I'm not one of those people that I don't think really had much of a choice in believing in God. He kind of came to me and
Hmm.
met me where I was. And I was just suddenly struck with, I couldn't suppress it anymore. He put me in an environment where I was unable to suppress it. And he was right in front of me. And so I had to face the truth and, went with that. Said, okay, you got me.
Wow, that's great. That's awesome.
So I think that's where, my continual education on apologetics is. I'm always trying to learn because I don't know. I kind of, I understand the atheist and that confrontation of not being able to get an answer. And called myself an atheist. I was part of an atheist group. One of the interesting things about atheism that I noticed back then, this is again 20 years ago, was mostly what I found was ex-Catholics
Really? Hmm.
extremely angry at God. So we'd have these
Um,
atheist groups, and the majority of them were ex-Catholics that had something happen with the church, and they just rejected Christianity and rejected God along with Catholic religion.
wow.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting.
That is. Yeah, the relationship going on there. Hmm. Yeah, I think that uh, some portion of atheists, and it's probably not a small one, are people who've had trauma or a loss of some kind in their life. They blamed God for it, and that's why they've convinced themselves God doesn't exist. Because if He
Yeah,
did,
I
He
agree.
wouldn't have allowed me to hurt that way.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree.
I find it interesting, though, that most of the atheists that you know, or such a large number of them, were ex-Catholics. That they um, maybe that maybe the Catholic Church did a lousy job of explaining to them that God has purpose in allowing hurt in this world.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, and I've noticed a shifting since then. The atheist group were highly Catholic, and it seems like the atheists I encounter now, in my daily life are not so much. Right? They've never really been raised in a Catholic religion. They've just kind of embraced what's been put out there by the world, embraced materialism, embraced evolution, and has really never really given it that much thought.
Yeah,
So it almost kind of this more of a neutral ground of, well, this is the truth, right? Isn't this the truth? I thought this was the truth, and conversation about Christianity and how we have a foundation for truth from that point.
yeah,
So it's interesting to watch society kind of, especially in America, it seems to go towards atheism. It's a little concerning.
hmm hmm. Yeah. I used to describe atheists like this. I used to say atheists are like a little kid who ties up all his favorite belongings into a neck handkerchief and ties it to the end of a stick and throws that over his shoulder and goes running off into the night to run away from home, denying his daddy.
Right.
Uh,
That's a
tonight,
good analogy.
and I think that explains a large percentage of atheists.
Yeah, what's
Yeah.
interesting is the atheists that you encounter online, and watching your videos, and they're very aggressive and very angry. And I thought I was pretty aggressive as an atheist because I would just challenge the beliefs, but I was never belligerent, right? I was never vulgar. I never attacked anybody on that. And that seems to be the people I encounter in my life. But I'm amazed at just the aggression on the atheist
Hmm.
when they're online on YouTube or in chat rooms. It's really striking.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of very aggressive ones. It seems like and they seem mostly to be, uh, I think the largest percentage of them, like at least 30 something, 40% of them are all, it seems like they're under 30 years of age, or about that or less. And there's, I guess, quite a few of them who are older people, 40s, 50s, 60s, but it seems like there's an awful lot of them are young folks. And I think there's a kind of a surge in atheism or rebellion against God going on in the culture today. That's a little bit more profound than what's been happening in the past. And I think it comes from partly comes from living in a world full of sin and full of technology. And they're disappointed that they're still suffering and hurt and disappointment in the world. And so they blame it on God.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But I know, I mean, I guess there are other reasons some people would be atheists. I don't think that's the only reason that everyone's atheist. I guess some are atheists simply because they're too prideful to acknowledge that they have a moral judge, a
Hmm.
creator over them. And, others maybe that they just love sin so much they can't possibly acknowledge that there's somebody in judgment over them for it. I guess there are other reasons too.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be nice to see the churches get back out too and start doing more evangelism out on
Mm.
the street and meeting with the neighbors.
Have you ever seen a show called Wretched?
Yeah, I've listened to the podcast. Todd Friel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, he's good.
Yeah, I've watched a number of his episodes of him uh, doing apologetics on college campuses, and he really comes across some pretty uh, strong atheists who just really, it's surprising to me how many college students are willing to say that they don't believe in God, or there's no reason to believe in God. It seems like atheism is a little more prominent in the universities than it is in the streets of the world. And I'm wondering if there's a relationship between the pride of thinking you're learning everything about the world by going to university, and your knowledge has somehow provided you with an excuse for denying God. I wonder what that's about.
Yeah. Well, those studies, and as I mentioned before, my concern about talking about evolution is to help talk about it with my son, who I know is going to be going to college in a few years. And I'm really concerned to make sure he's got the answers to be able to take those questions and feel confident about them. But just the statistics of watching people walk away from the faith when they go to a secular college is frightening. Such a
Yeah,
huge proportion.
yeah, there is a lot. I've heard a lot of people say that a lot of people go in Christian and come out atheist.
And that, I mentioned my roommate, my Christian roommate who introduced me to Campus Crusade for Christ, right? And got me into that. But the sad thing about that is he's now an atheist.
Oh,
Yeah,
really? Wow.
yeah, he walked away from the faith. So I've been praying for him and talking to him. But it's kind of an interesting um,
Wow.
how that worked out, how I entered the faith, he left. And
That's
he pretty much
bizarre.
introduced me to it. Yeah.
Mm-mm-mm. I think that gives us reason to believe that he left belief or left Christianity not because it was ever an intellectual position to take. It was something emotional within him snapped, and he decided he didn't want anything to do with God, so he was going to convince himself God doesn't exist.
Yeah,
It
I
has to be
agree.
something like that, because if it was ever really based on intellect, if he was an atheist for X years, it would have been based on intellectual things, and then he couldn't have made this 100% flip.
No, no, he couldn't. He couldn't. And he said an interesting thing to me as I'm talking to him. He mentioned to me, he said, I want to believe you. I really do. I don't want to have the position that I'm in. I don't want to think that when I die, that's it, that there's no purpose to life. I really want to have your position, but I just can't bring myself to that.
Hmm.
So something's happening there, at an emotional level, at a heart level, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and he probably means it when he says that he doesn't want there to be no God. He's probably right telling the truth about that, but what he's not telling you is, but I don't want to believe in God because, that's what he's not telling you.
Right.
He's giving you half the story. He really, in his heart of hearts, doesn't want there to not be a God. He does want God to exist, but he can't bring himself to accept that God exists for some reason.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I just haven't figured out what that is yet.
Mm. Well, you could ask him. What happened in your life that made you disavow God?
Yeah,
And
that's a good point.
he might not come out and say, well, wait a minute. He might say, well, wait a minute. What makes you think I disavowed God because of something? And so you might get that as a response. But if you push it a little bit further, you might get him to open up a little.
Yeah, I got to keep peeling back that onion to find out really what's there.
Yeah. Well, it's 11:30. I've had the hangout open. It's 11:22 where I am. Had the hangout open for, I guess, an hour and a half now. And you're the only person that's come. I don't know what's happening. Is it people lost interest in talking to me with me, or is it just what's going on with Christians and their hangouts are not being joined anymore? I don't know. I'm wondering. Maybe I got too good at refuting evolution, and they just figure what's the point?
You
And
scared them all away.
maybe I scared them. I don't know. I'm not trying to boast or anything. I'm just saying, hey, something's going on here because I used to be able to get people in my hangouts like crazy, but now it seems like nobody wants to come. So I don't know. Something has changed. I don't know what's
Well, I don't want to say it, Evan, but it could be me.
going on. You got them spooked out of their wits.
They saw my profile picture.
Oh,
They didn't want anything to do with that.
Ah, let me take a look. What's in that profile picture?
Just my ugly mug.
Oh, okay. It's just a picture of you.
It's just my ugly mug.
Yeah, I don't know that. Yeah. I guess they're just tired of not being able to give an account for what they say. So they're hanging out, in rooms where it's just them.
Talking to each other. That's right.
Yeah. Patting each other on the back.
You're gonna have to start going to them.
Spoon feeding evolution and atheism to each other.
That's right.
Hey, Joe, pass that evolutionism. Go on, give me some more atheism.
Give me some more. Double helping.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, I guess I'm going to kill the hangout, David. I appreciate you popping in.
It's been great talking to you. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, I enjoy talking to you. It's been good. But since not many people popping in, I guess I'll go. While I feel like talking to people, I might go trolling around the hangouts for a minute, see what's going on.
Okay.
I'll pop into. Maybe I won't. I might go to bed. But thanks again, David. It's always a pleasure having you pop in.
Yeah, appreciate your time again. Prayers to you and your wife. Thank you again for your ministry, man. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, David. God bless
Have a great
you.
night.
You too, man.
Bless you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.